The big day is finally here. Ciao!
Oh, maybe we should just turn around.
Welcome back. After 4 months of preparations, Skua and her crew are ready for their first ever ocean crossing. A passage of 3,000 nautical miles from the Canary Islands to the Caribbean. Enormous amounts of food are stored away and the sea berths are set up. The big day is finally here. I can't believe it. I've been focused on getting ready for so many months, getting work done and getting the boat ready and thinking about every single possible scenario and all of that. And so been really focused on the present and never on the future. And now it feels really surreal that we're actually taking off, we're actually doing it. Really excited. I'm not nervous yet. Maybe I will get quite nervous when we lose sight of land in a few days. But nothing we've not done before, losing sight of land and going offshore, so that should be alright. And see how long it takes to drive us nuts, this passage. What's the plan then? What's the forecast like?
Well, it's really good. Probably the best forecast for this length of time that we've ever had. And so I'm just figuring it out on LuckGrip, which is what we use for planning passages. And it stores the weather information so you can look at it later as well, so you don't have to keep taking screenshots and stuff. But it's looking fairly light for the first couple of days, but south of the Canaries it's really strong. So we're going to take the light winds and go across the north side of the Canary Islands, which also means that if we have any trouble then there's loads of islands downwind of us. Should also mean we don't hit too much in the way of acceleration zones, hopefully. And then once we're past the western edge of the Canaries, we'll turn southwest towards a waypoint in the middle of the ocean. Try and get relatively far south, but just avoid all the strong winds which are whipping down the African coast. So yeah, that's kind of the plan.
Are we gonna stop at the Cape Verdes or not?
No, because there's lots of very strong wind around the Cape Verdes, and basically for the whole extent of the weather window that we can see, it's just better not to. So we've got really good wind, light wind on the beam to get west of the Canaries, and then it should turn to be on the quarter proper trade wind 15 to 20 knots. But we'll see how it pans out.
Last night we were just lying in bed chatting and we had the realization that we're finally getting out of Europe. We didn't really think about it before, but it feels more of a big step now that we know it. Ciao! Magari! After saying see you later to our families, we turn on the instruments and fire up the engine. Ryan sets us free from the mooring block we used for the night, and we're off. As we raise the sails, we realize it will be at least 25 days until we lower them again. It's 29th of February 2020, and although it's hard to imagine it now, the coronavirus is not a pandemic yet. The virus is found predominantly in China and it's not considered to have a high mortality rate. The first European country to lock down is Italy on 9th of March, 9 days after our departure. So we don't give it a second thought, just like the other dozens of boats setting off on the same day. While we're in calm waters, we rig up a preventer to avoid any accidental jibes. As the wind is building, we put on our harnesses and clip in. So the sails are up, huh?
Yeah, it's going really nice. There's a bit more wind than was forecast, but it might just be because it's coming down the side of the island. But it's great sailing conditions. We've been doing between 6 and 6.5 knots, which is really nice. I don't know if there's a bit of current involved.
Time to put the fishing line out. We hope to catch some tuna or mahi-mahi, so we can add protein to our diet. We don't have a freezer and can only store 12 eggs on board. Such a beautiful day, it's amazing. I'm trying to think about anything that we might have forgotten, but I guess it's too late now. But we've got plenty of food, way too much to be honest. But we heard on some islands in the Caribbean the food is quite expensive, so why not have some cheap food on board? And everything is stowed away quite safely, so nothing should go flying around. So yeah, that's all we can do. We've got our grab bag ready. The Faraday cage is ready to go in the oven in case we have a squall with lightning. So yeah, it's just waiting around and jibing and sailing for 27 days. Lunch is veggie fajitas. I want to use up the veggies while they're fresh. Soon after lunch, the wind picks up, so we put a reef in the mainsail.
So we're having a bit of a rough time of it at the minute. We're going along the northern side of the Canaries, just north of the most western point of Fuerteventura. And as you can probably tell, the wind is pretty strong at the moment. We were expecting, and it was forecast to be about 12 knots of wind today, which would have been a fantastic introduction to life back on the sea. We could have eased ourselves into it, but at the moment we got 27 knots of wind and it's a bit uncomfortable for a first day. We could really have done with a nice easy start. I'm a bit worried that we made the wrong decision about coming on the north side of these islands rather than the south. I thought that this would avoid a lot of the acceleration zones, but now I just don't really know. It's been down to doubting our decision. Eleanor's started to feel a bit seasick. I've been feeling a little bit rough. We've both taken seasickness tablets. Eleanor's down below sleeping at the moment. I think if she still feels rough when she comes up on deck, then we need to try and figure out another plan, because yeah, at the moment it feels like we're just kind of sleepwalking into a problem of us both being seasick, because when it's like this at night, like at daytime it's not too bad, you feel a bit uncomfy, but at night you start to feel worse. You can't see the horizon, feels like the boat's moving around a lot more, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky afternoon.
So when I came up, Ryan wasn't feeling super positive about our decision of staying north of the islands, but I do think that the acceleration zones start north of them, and retrospectively we should have thought about that. It's just that we trusted the maps showing them a bit too much, as if they can offer a lot of detail, but they obviously can't. So yeah, my preference would be to keep going. I think 25 knots is trade wind conditions. It's just that it's on the beam or just forward a bit at the moment, but as soon as we turn southwest we should be totally fine. And I guess I am so accustomed to being seasick or queasy that for me this is no big deal. While for Ryan it's obviously like he never really feels seasick or queasy, so maybe it feels a bit tougher than it is for me. But I'm quite happy to be up here and let him rest and see how he feels later. And I mean, right now we are miles from any anchorage, so there's nothing we can do about it. We can turn south to go between islands and have the wind in a more comfortable point of sail, but the wind is forecast to be stronger south of the islands, so I would stick with staying north, to be honest. But we'll see how Ryan feels when he comes back up. I'm still feeling pretty positive, and yeah, I'm looking forward to building up those sea legs. I don't really want to disrupt that by stopping. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having the wind on the stern so I can read and all of that, because at the moment I'm just on the verge of seasickness. So yeah, it's not amazing, but I might put on a podcast now. That should take my mind off it.
Our only means of communication is a Garmin InReach, a satellite messaging system that allows us to receive 160 character messages. We don't have access to the internet, and we have asked our families not to give us any bad news because we want to focus on keeping ourselves and the boat safe. Bad news would just lower our morale and distract us. We cannot turn back in the trade winds.
So I managed to get some time down below. Didn't really sleep, but just kind of rested horizontal for a bit. That's worked amazingly. I feel about 100%, I think. The other thing that's helped a lot is that the wind speed's dropped just enough that the boat speed is now at like 5 knots, which when we're on the beam is way comfier. So yeah, feeling really good. I chatted it through with Eleanor about what to do, and I felt pretty rough at the time, and I could still see the like anchorage where we could go back and anchor, not the one we stayed in last night, but a different one on the south end of the island. And so I was kind of like, oh, maybe we should just turn around, but thankfully we just pressed on. She made the really good decision that we should just carry on and see how it goes after we both had some rest. So we both had like an hour's rest, and now we're both feeling good. Both happy to carry on.
It's midnight and I am on my first night watch on this Atlantic crossing. It's a very cloudy night, so I can't see anything. There's no stars, no moon. I can barely see the waves thanks to some bioluminescence, but that's about it. And it's a little bit chilly, so as you can see I'm all covered up. I've got my sleeping bag on my legs to keep them warm, and yeah, pretty uneventful so far. Just had a couple of ships go around me. We went on a collision course, so I didn't even call them up on the radio. The boat is very stable. We've got 20 knots of wind, and yeah, done 2 hours so far, 1 hour to go, and then I can go have a bit of a sleep.
Fuerteventura y Isa Radio. Con repetición, importante aviso a los navegantes. Escuchen Fuerteventura Radio en canal 22, 22 y Isa Radio en canal 3.
Day 2 starts with little wind, so Ryan decides to give a clean to the boat. He cleans the spray hood windows and the cockpit well. The wind vane is steering us well in the light wind, thanks to our new homemade air vane made out of spinnaker fabric.
Day 2 is going great. We have anywhere between 10 and 20 knots of wind, and the sea is still really calm, so I've been able to cook. I made veggie fajitas for lunch again, so that we make most of our fresh provisions before they go off or before the sea state becomes a bit too rough to cook. We're just passing the northern tip of Tenerife right now, and we will head for La Palma. And this time we're going to try and be a little bit closer to the island so that we can pick up the forecast.
Dinner tonight is a quick and easy but hearty bean stew.
Sleepy?
A little bit. I don't know why. I slept probably more than I normally would in the last 24 hours, but it's like slow motion sailing. Like the boat's barely moving, we're just coasting along at a couple of knots. And it's probably more comfortable than most of the anchorages we were in the Med last year.
No, not most.
Definitely in April.
Yeah.
It's not a good fishing speed, but it's a good speed for sleeping and cooking and living on the boat. So, yeah, enjoying this little evening. Sun's going to go down soon. I'm going to try and do some star sights. You're going to go to sleep soon?
Well, I'm gonna probably read a bit if I can, and then lie down for 2 hours as my first
Just
off watch.
unwind
Yeah, just
from
unwind.
this stress.
I'll sleep 3 hours in the night, and then tomorrow morning.
Thanks for watching. If you like our channel, subscribe and click on the bell button to know when our next video goes live. You can support our video production via Patreon or a casual PayPal donation. Join us next week as we continue our Atlantic crossing.